There was a period in our history, however, when colonialist powers from Europe encroached on our territory, and as a reason, for purely economic reasons, again, they saw an opportunity to enrich themselves, and they did. The Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, the French, the Germans, all of them sent expeditions out into the world, and especially into the Muslim world, and they established their own institutions in place of ours. Chief among those institutions were the commercial banks. The commercial banks allowed the colonialists not only to take our wealth and appropriate it for themselves, but also, by means of interest, to begin inflating it, such that every dinar or dirham that they took from our treasuries became 10 or 100 or more in theirs. And so this vicious circle of banking and blowing air into the economies of the world began at that time in a big way, because up until that time they had only their own assets. Once they went out into the world, they discovered an endless world of assets that they could conflate. And that's exactly what they did, inflate. At the present time, we have problems and we have opportunities. The problems that we face stem primarily from the way that the global economy is presently constituted. As I mentioned earlier, our concept of money is quite different, whereas the conventional concept is something that is very, very arbitrary, and one that allows the banks, the financial wizards of the world, to do their magic, to the detriment of everyone other than themselves, by the way. And even though they pay these fines, and the fines keep going up and up and up, the latest fine, I don't know if you read it in the newspapers, the latest fine paid by one of these international banks was $1.3 billion. Prior to this time, they've been paying, slap on the wrist kind of money, but now they're paying real money. But then when you consider that their balance sheet showed a profit this year of $5.5 billion, if they had to pay $1.3 billion one time to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, big deal. So you can see that we find ourselves surrounded by an ocean of interest. The Prophet ﷺ once said to his companions that a day will come when, even though you yourselves are not involved in interest, you will nonetheless smell it in the air, because it permeates every aspect of society. You'll smell it in the air. You'll smell it. And that's our situation right now. It is everywhere, even your electrical bill. Interest is all over the place. It's considered now to be, essential to any kind of modern economic activity. So, when Islamic banks opened 20, 30 years ago, people laughed. They thought, oh, this is nonsense. How can you operate a bank without interest? Well, that brings us to the question of how did we operate for centuries without banks, without interest? How did we? And the simple answer is we operated quite well, thank you, by means of our Sharia.